Hey, look, I know what you're thinking. You probably already hate everything about me. And let me guess. The rat's tail, the chains, the tats. Maybe it's just the way I talk. And look, I get it. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But I wonder what I'd think if I saw you on the street. I wonder if I'd judge you the same way. Like, look at him. He looks soft. Probably still works that dead-end job. Never chased what he actually wants. Or look at her. She's completely given up on life. Can't even remember what it means to fight for herself anymore. But you're more than that. Much more than that. And so am I. So before you judge me, sit down with me. Let me show you who I actually am. Okay, so my real name's Joseph Cowan. My stage name, my rap name's Josepe. I've been going by that name for about 15 years or so. I'm a musician, hip-hop artist, primarily a rapper. I also play guitar, throw my vocal cords down at the singing sometimes. If you check my catalogue out, I do some of my own vocals on the hook and that. It's somewhat landed into the influencing content creator scene, which wasn't really my intentions to begin with. I just whipped my camera out, started talking my story a lot. Them reels and bits of content started really taking off, so I do a lot of that. But I'm also my father, friend, I'm a son, I'm an uncle, I'm a stepfather, I'm a husband-to-be. I'm engaged at the moment. Yeah, I'm a believer in the Most High, manifestation, God, all the above. At the end of the day, I'm a human being, just like everyone else, you know what I mean? Music's something I've always done, bro. So when I wind it back to as far as I could remember, my mother used to play guitar, and my grandmother was in a choir and she was a music teacher. My papa, he was in like a brass band, played a lot of instruments and used to conduct the Salvation Army and band things like that. So rap wasn't it for me when I was younger. I wasn't allowed to listen to rap music and hip hop. Yeah, so I started doing like cover songs and learning songs like Green Day, Time of Your Life, Holiday, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, things like that in like grade 8, grade 9. When I was about 10 or 11, my mum was married to a guy. Long story short, he bought a caravan, right? Me and my brothers were just chilling in the caravan, right? And we turned a CD player on and there was a burnt CD in there, right? And I think like the first song was it was like a mixtape CD. The first very ever rap song I heard was Big Papa by Biggie Smalls, right? And me and my brothers were like, what is this, bro? Like we never heard nothing like that. So I remember hearing Tupac in a movie called Orange County, so I just chucked in Tupac into LimeWire and Life Goes On was the first Tupac song I heard. I was like this little Christian boy, bro, like I had no sense of like trapping, but like, you know, just all gangster, just on the street lifestyle. I wasn't, would you say, exposed to it like that, only what we saw in TVs or documentaries, and wasn't allowed to watch stuff like that growing up. And my little brother Jamie, I wrote a song to him, it's called Letter to My Brother, and I released that earlier this year. Me and my little brother were separated very young and we were like that. He was my little shadow and we both had our own traumas and life experiences. It really pulled us apart. I wrote this song because I had some things going on. I wasn't sure if I was going to get sent back to jail. I was like, I've got to get this song out, bro. If they're going to send me back down for a couple of years, I need my little brother to know this, and I got to say a few things, really tell him that, I love him, I think you're a little king. And I wish I could have been there. I was a poor kid. I say this with nothing but love to my people, but I want shirts and clothing to be available for the poorer people. So that's nothing with love. You could be poor in the pocket, but rich in soul and spirit. And so I want people that, like me, were poor, but rich in soul and spirit, to be able to rock a shirt from their favorite artist or their favorite content creator or the person that's inspiring them either to get out of that situation that they may be in or not get into that situation at all. So that was big for me. That was very big for me. Look, people see the chains first, the diamonds, the matching fit. They think they've read me before I even said a word. And look, I get it, man. I used to wish I was fresh, but I couldn't afford it. So now that I can, fucking oath, I wear it. But every shirt with my name on it, I priced so a kid like the one I was could actually buy it. Without his mum having to choose between that and groceries. The first rapper I ever vibed with was Tupac. I downloaded a song called Life Goes On, straight off of LimeWire. You know the program? My own dad wasn't around to be that voice, so I found it where I could. And that's the stuff you don't see standing in a park, in the sun, smiling, being the easy version. So let's go for a drive. I'm really enjoying this yarn. So I didn't do jail till later in life. So when I was 28, I went to jail for assault, occasionally bodily harm. And what happened there is, me and my partner at the time, my baby mums, we were living at my best mate's house, right? And I went down the road to get some shopping and do some groceries and that. I come back and he was like half a bottle deep in the Jack Daniels. He sort of got at me for taking so long, which was, you know, just madness in itself. And my son was right there. I said, brother, like, you want to keep it down? Like, my son's just right there, bro, you know what I mean? And then he just got even offended even more. Oh, this is my house, you know what I mean? So like, just trying to de-escalate. I thought I'd get my head punched in, you know? The second last time I tried to de-escalate, I just jumped at him, hugged him, and I said to him, he says, fuck bro, my son's just there. Like, he sat back at the table, and then the guy who came shopping with me sat opposite of the table, and bro just snapped and launched and punched this guy. Bro stood up and ran. He stood up to me again, and then that was it. So I just jumped up, and my adrenaline's peaking, bro. Full survival, fight or flight shit, you know what I mean? So I told my baby mums at the time, I said, grab the nappy bag, and I picked up my son, and I went to the front door, said, fill in the nappy bag quickly, we're fucking out of here. So I'm standing at the front door, and I got my son in my arms, 7-month-old baby boy. I'm holding the front door open with my foot, and then out of the corner of my eye, I seen old buddy come through with the big hook, and like in that moment, everything just sort of went a little bit slow motion. I just pivoted enough so he didn't hit my son, and I copped it in the back of the head, and it was like no effect, obviously, because of the adrenaline. And I passed my son to my missus, and like I was like terrified, bro. We got out of there. Me and my partner split not long after that. I ended up like just dodging the police, not going to the court date for it was a little over 12 months when they caught up with me in Redcliffe down in Brisbane, and had to fight my case in jail. And my lawyer said, look, we can take it to trial. So I would have ended up being a remand possibly for another 12 to 18 months fighting this charge. And she said, look, if you just plead guilty to it, you've already been in here for 6 months, by the time you get to your plea date, and we can get you out on that day. But in saying that, you're pleading guilty to what he said has happened, what he said happened is that I just rocked up and kicked his door down and jumped all over his head, which absolutely didn't happen like that. But I just wanted to get home to my baby, you know what I mean? So I said, yeah, let's cop the guilty plea. In a nutshell, I did 7 months for protecting my son and keeping my mouth shut. And then I did a further 5 months for being a passenger in a car that was hot and keeping my mouth shut. And yeah, that's why I was in jail, guys. Look, I kept my mouth shut my whole life because someone told me that's what a man does. It took me 2 stretches inside to work out the men who taught me that were never in the yard cutting laps beside me. A giver can't always recognise a taker, but a taker can always recognise a giver. I learnt that the hard way. As we pulled into some gardens, there was green everywhere. Families about, kids running around, and I clocked it straight away. The looks. I feel people sizing me up before I've said a word. And I've had those looks my whole life. I still feel every single one of them. So sit with me a bit longer. This is the part where I'm gonna tell you what the wrong face actually costs. And I hope you never feel this way, man. To me, that's bullying. When a man look at me like that, that's bullying, you know what I'm saying? And I just, I can either react to it emotionally charged, or I can act accordingly emotionally mature. And at the end of the day, my main goal is to make sure I come home to my babies. Online space is just a fragment of the real world. You have never had more power in your hands. And right from the rip, like, you can block people, but you don't have to react to any of it. I would say don't react to it, because they're only giving you a self-reflection of themselves, right? If you got something like, you got acne scars like me, or you got, an overweight problem, or they might just not like the way you look or carry yourself, you know what I mean? So if you react to it, you're giving them exactly what they want. My advice would be block them straight off the rip. When it comes to, being in a public space, I've got another grown man looking at me like he wants to do something to me. Well, I had 2 decisions, bro. I can either be a hard cunt and stick around and wait to see if something happens, or we could just pack the gear up and take a new location. They're on their own path. If you want to be on a path of purpose, you just got to follow your gut at some level, because your gut's going to feel things your brain doesn't, you know what I mean? So my childhood was very sheltered, believe it or not, for a solid 14 years of my life. with my single mother and my 2 brothers in a Seventh-day Adventist household, strictly to the church. At one stage, Reformed, very cult-like. But like my mum used to tie up the garage, roller garage door with dog leads and deadbolt all the doors. We weren't allowed to associate with kids outside of the congregation and the churches we went to. We weren't allowed to listen to rap music or anything worldly, you know what I mean? Like we wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons, we wasn't allowed to... Like we used to watch Saturday Disney until Pretty Fly for a White Guy came on once, man, and my mum was like, nah, that's it for Saturday Disney. I love my mum, I love my dad, but music was always ingrained into me. I ended up over in Western Australia with my mother and her bikie boyfriend when I was 14. I ended up back in Brisbane by myself on a one-way ticket with nowhere to go. My dad wouldn't have borrowed me. Still would love to have that conversation with him one day. But yeah, so pretty much from that point onwards, I was fending for myself. I've still like got a long way to go, as in, you know, healing my soul, and I don't know if it'll ever fully be healed, but you know, my life doesn't resemble anything like what it once did. Yeah, life's beautiful now, and so yeah, really run the ball up with the music again. She helped me start my music back up because I wasn't going to do it. She started jumping behind the camera to film music videos for me with no experience, and like God has given me everything that I've even half fake pumped that I've wanted in life. Life's a blessing now, bro. I wouldn't have it any other way, and like I know, I wouldn't wind it all back. I wouldn't wind it back and erase anything from my past. We all make judgments on people, right? The guy with the scraggy shoes, the guy with the ripped shirt, and we also make judgments on the guy walking through the shopping centre with a suit on, man. That could be a $10 suit, right? But treating someone based on how you judge them without actually having a minute to sit down with them and talk, I think you're not only doing that person an injustice, but you're doing yourself an injustice. I'd really like to be in a position where I could sit down with people, you know, get them to open up about who they really are. They can break free from that judgment. I think that'd be a beautiful thing, a beautiful stage of life to go down. I guess we're gonna have to see what happens, yeah? I once read a quote, man, and it went along the lines of, the only true voyage of discovery is not to seek new landscapes, but to have other eyes. That took me a long time to understand what it meant. I used to think it was about travel, like going with someone new and seeing it through somebody else's perspective. But oi, that's not what he meant. I'm pretty sure he meant the real journey of being alive is borrowing someone else's eyes for long enough to see what they're seeing. Like right now, I'm thinking about all the artists, not the famous ones, not the ones the algorithm's already putting in front of you. I'm talking about the ones you scroll past, or that painter that you didn't stop on, that other rapper whose face decided his genre for you, the producer making beats at 3 in the morning for absolutely nobody, or the comedian king doing 15 minutes on a Tuesday night at a boutique venue to 12 people. Even the dancer rehearsing in the kitchen because she can't afford a studio. Every one of them is making something, and every one of them has a story nobody's ever bothered to ask them about. And I know, right? Because I was one of them. I've worn the wrong face my whole life. I've watched people decide who I was before I even had a chance to open up my mouth. And underneath all of it, there was a whole life nobody asked about. So now, I'm really wondering about the others. So look, I'm gonna go looking for the artists you've already decided about. The wrong face, the wrong genre, the wrong postcode, the wrong follower count. The ones who don't fit the version of an artist that you've been sold. I'm gonna sit down with them, the way you just sat with me. I'm gonna walk their streets, I'm gonna eat at their tables. And most importantly, I'm gonna listen to the things they've never been asked about. And it's not because they're famous, it's because they're making something. And making something costs you. And somebody should be in the room when you talk about what it costs, right? I ain't got a clue what I'm going to find, but I truly have a feeling that it's going to change the way I see everyone, not just the artists. Maybe it'll change the way you see them too.